Hi everyone, and welcome inside Davis Wade Stadium for the SunDevilSource postgame show presented by Jones Auto Centers following ASU's heartbreaking 24-20 loss to Mississippi State. Chris, this game was all over the place, certainly a roller coaster. They were not kidding around about those SEC environments. I've never been in one myself, but I can say my ears are still ringing from the cowbells from being down on the field. And like I said, this game was all over the place, up and down for both sides, but the most important part of this game was the last 2 minutes. ASU 4th and 1, a chance to take the lead, score a touchdown. They decide to go for the field goal instead, and then on Mississippi State's next drive of the game, ASU gets burned on a blitz, a game-winning touchdown on a deep ball, and that does it.
Yeah, you summed it up exactly what happened. Some people probably were not of the agreement that they should have kicked a field goal there. I think that you take the lead. You got a minute and a half left, right? I think you got to take the lead. Mississippi State comes back. There's like 30 seconds left in the game, something like that, from their own 42-yard line. And Brian Ward dials up a zero blitz. There's no safety over the top. Never mind having two safeties in a cover two shell. And it seemed like Kendrick Breedlove and Javen Robinson got caught on a switch release, both going to the out route when nobody took the post. That's a bad thing to do because Brennan Thompson earlier had a touchdown on a big play against Javen Robinson. And that's going to be second guessed by ASU's fan base. It already is on social media. I think maybe you got to play a little bit more prevent defense there. And even if Mississippi State gets a field goal to try to tie the game, ASU was much better in the second half of this game and I think had the momentum on its side. And so that's why that, to me, seemed like the decision that's going to remind a lot of ASU fans of what happened in the Peach Bowl. Just the very last time that they lost the game, of course, on 4th and 13, I think it was that situation. But yeah, that's a heartbreaker because ASU, in my opinion, was a better team. Very hostile environment, as you said. It was as loud as any stadium I've ever been in my career. The cowbells are apparently allowed in non-conference when the center's snapping the ball, but not in SEC games, which is very interesting to know.
And Chris, we'll get to that pretty abysmal first half by ASU, but it was really a dogfight, pun kind of intended, as ASU tried to claw back in the second half. I mean, they opened the half with a touchdown. It was all runs, 8 plays, and Kanye Udo scores ASU's first touchdown of the game, his first touchdown in a Sun Devil uniform. What did you think of ASU's efforts to try and climb back?
Well, in the first half, I was tweeting like ASU needs to run the ball, run the rock. That's what they did last year. Mississippi State played more four-man fronts a little bit early on, which I think gave ASU some questions about what maybe was the best strategy. But Sam Leavitt struggled. We're going to talk about that later. Bottom line is that they needed to be able to run the ball. This was supposed to be Kyson Brown's coming out party. It didn't really happen. He had an ankle injury. Raleek Brown did decently well, but this was a Kanye Udo game, playing behind 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. ASU didn't have Jalen Moss. It was impressive to see ASU respond the way that it did after playing so poorly and being at such a big deficit in the first half, especially in an environment like this one. Then they came back and they had the touchdown from Leavitt to Jordan Tyson in the end zone. That might have also been on 4th down and the 3rd or 4th down. Bottom line is that the response was tremendous, and I felt like the resiliency that we saw from ASU last season was on display in the second half.
And now let's talk about that first half. We'll start with the defense. Mississippi State was really able to get into a really, really good passing rhythm. Miles Rouser got caught on a deep ball. So did Javen Robinson. What did you see defensively in that first half?
Well, yeah, I said in our scouting preview, ASU can't give up the big plays. Blake Shapen, the Mississippi State RPO-heavy offense with Lebby, they do a good job of getting guys foggy in the brains and then slipping the ball past them. And that's what happened, I think, on that first one. Rouser just he got a bump on the receiver, but then didn't carry him vertically. I think they were in cover 3. Everybody else is in zone. He had a man assignment, didn't get it. That one went for the long touchdown. Javen Robinson later on, he just got beat on a go ball. I don't even think it was a double move. I think it was just like a Thompson just kind of ran by him, and that was a great throw by Blake Shapen over the shoulder on the outside, laid it in perfectly. You're going to have one of those. The problem is that you can't have 3 big play touchdowns. 1 or 2, ASU wins the game. 3, ASU loses the game. And look, they have Rouser kind of got picked on, and then ASU's nickel, Kendrick Breedlove or Montana Warren, they also got kind of picked on. We knew that Montana Warren's departure would be a big thing for ASU to have to kind of overcome this season. And Rouser's not, his forte is not coverage. He's more of a box safety, play the run. So yeah, I think those were definitely as big as anything that happened in the game.
And Keyshawn Elliott talked about that after the game, too, how just that lightning tempo of Mississippi State's offense, it can be very discombobulating for a defense. And even I noticed it shooting. I felt like I was having to keep going back much quicker than I would have had to as I was shooting Mississippi State on offense. But let's talk about Sam Leavitt on offense in that first half. Now, a majority of the first half, his passing yards were in single digits, and Mississippi State just was adding up in that category. Kenny Dillingham said he just wasn't able to get into a rhythm. What did you see?
He played poorly. There's no other way around it. Mississippi State gave him fits last year with a lot of 3-high safety looks, and I think in this game he struggled to diagnose coverages. There were receivers that were open on several throws that he made where he just didn't see someone or scrambled, threw to the wrong place. He had a couple of interceptions. He has 3 interceptions already in 2 games. That's half as many as he had all last season, which is a 14-game season. So this is not a good start. I think he has been overly reliant on Jordan Tyson. Remember, we talked after NAU about that being a game to kind of get you some comfort with some of your other receiving options. I thought they'd utilize the tight ends more in this game, playing out of 12 personnel with some play actions to those guys. He also had some overthrows in the first half. There was at least 2, maybe 3 overthrows. So he just wasn't sharp, not nearly sharp enough when you need your quarterback that everybody's talked about as like a Heisman Trophy candidate, right? You don't have Cam Skadaboo anymore, and so you need to kind of hang your hat on what Leavitt's going to be able to do at recognizing coverages and making adjustments and finding the right receiver, and that just was not nearly good enough, especially in the first half tonight.
And then ASU was dealing with a few injuries as well. I mean, the story everyone's been talking about this week, it's a Kyson Brown homecoming, and then early on, he kind of bangs up his ankle a little bit, and it doesn't turn out to be that. Maxi Honachor was playing a little bit banged up as well, and then Jalen Moss and Justin Watley had to sit this one out. Do you think that impacted the game?
Somewhat. Maxi Honachor, I thought, was degraded from his normal performance. He had a bad holding early. He missed a block that was a tackle for loss. There was a couple other plays where I just don't think that he was his normal self. Not having Justin Watley, that's a factor. I think he was one of their better camp performers in their defensive front. Not having Jalen Moss is a big deal because, again, other than Jordan Tyson, they're not getting that much out of their other receivers right now. I thought that Jaron Hamilton would have more of an impact. I think he had 1 target that was incomplete. The ball was underthrown, in fact, by 11 on that one. Malik McClain, you're just not seeing that much of action. And so you're becoming a little bit too one-note in your passing attack. And I think not having Jalen Moss is an impact on that and force the team to maybe be in a little more 12 personnel. I also think that running the ball was what they should have been doing, and maybe it was almost a blessing in some way for them to need to rely on Kanye Udoh because the 12 personnel looks and the bigger body, heavier run game and what they did in the second half, I think is a good recipe for them moving forward, and he's more of that style of a back than Kyson Brown is.
Now, you mentioned moving forward. Kenny Dillingham said this is a team that's dealt with adversity for a long time. They played in a lot of close games last year and didn't lose too many of them.
Yeah.
So 1 game left in non-conference play before going to Baylor. What does ASU do from here to keep the momentum not too far in the gutter?
That's the thing about last year that made it so special is they won all of those 1-score games, the most in school history. And you're not going to do that all of the time. And so when they're in a situation like this, the magic didn't continue for them. So they're going to need to play a lot better and more focused from the outset of games so they don't fall behind. They're resilient. They're going to be resilient. They were last season. They have a lot of the same leaders. I get all that. But they have to be better and more intent on what they're trying to accomplish, especially on the offensive side. And then you just can't give up the big plays like that. That was not a thing that was a regular occurrence last year through the conference play, and they're going to have to basically figure out how to prevent any of those things from happening. I thought Mississippi State was a lot more impressive to me this year than last year. Probably playing here is a huge component of that. ASU fans are going to be very nervous about what this means for the season. My feeling is that this is about as difficult of an environment as you're going to face, coupled with this team's talent level and a veteran like a Blake Shapen at quarterback. They're not going to be a lot stiffer challenge. Like if you put Mississippi State into the Big 12, I think Mississippi State would actually do quite well, a lot better than what people might think. And remember, a lot of people are blasting ASU and saying this team's going to be a dramatic underachiever and all these things, but a lot of those same people probably remember last year Texas State, Texas Tech, and thinking, oh yeah, ASU is going to be a 6-6 team, or maybe
I was one of those people.
Or maybe a 7-5 team. So you just can't put too much stock into what you've seen so far. I still think ASU is a good team, and at the end of the season will have a very successful season. But Levitt's play was a concern tonight, there's no question, as well as giving up those big plays. ASU is going to have to be better in those areas, but I think what they found in the run game in the second half and just their overall moxie that they have and their ability to be resilient is going to bode well. Can't turn the ball over, though. That's they were first in the Big 12 in turnover margin last year, first in run defense. They got to have those things going with them to be able to overcome some of these miscues.
Well, most definitely a few things for ASU to take a look at this upcoming week as it preps for Texas State back at home. Kenny Dillingham will have more thoughts after he's watched the game. We'll have you covered with that press conference Monday, practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and then, of course, that game on Saturday evening. Until then, Gabby Chernoff and Chris Cartman for SunDevilSource.